Hi everyone, I'm Gina from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a quick and easy card project featuring the new Sentimental Bouquet stamp set. Now, for those of you that were lucky enough to grab the Sentimental Bouquet kit, one of the cards uses only the products that came in the kit. But for those of you who are more experienced stampers, or maybe you would like to branch out of the products that are in the kit, I'm going to show you a card that features a couple other things that you might have in your stamp room. So let me show you the tools and products you need to make this card project. First, you're going to need the stamp set, and this is the Sentimental Bouquet stamp set. It also came in the kit, but it's available separately at ginakdesigns.com. Then you're going to need some ink, and the ink pad that I'm going to use for my stepped up card is a Versamark pad. I'm also going to use a couple of the colors that came in the kit. And you can see I keep all my little ink cubes in the Tim Holtz ink tin. I'm going to use, these were colors that came in the kit. I'm going to use the Wild Wisteria, the Blue Lagoon, and the Grass Green. I'm also going to use some black onyx. Then you're going to need some embossing powder, and I'm using the Gina K Designs Fine Detail Clear Embossing Powder. I also have 2 sponge daubers. If you don't have sponge daubers, you may have the Tim Holtz blending tool or any other kind of sponge. You certainly can use something that you already have. I'm also using the embossing magic pad, and this little magic pad removes any static from the surface of your card, but it also blots up any oil or any debris that's on the card that would change the way the embossing powder sticks, and it allows the embossing powder to only stick where you want it. And then I'm using one acrylic block. This is the one that comes in the Sentimental Bouquet kit, but you can use any acrylic blocks, or you can also use your MISTI stamping tool. And then I have some adhesive here. I also have a heat tool, and I'm using the Marvy heat tool. All right, for cardstock, again, I'm just using what came in the kit, but if you have this kind of cardstock at home, you can certainly cut it up. I have a white heavy base weight card base. I have a layer of black onyx, and then I have a layer of layering weight white cardstock. So let me grab a piece of scrap paper here. All right, so to begin my project, I am going to start by taking a little bit, let me zoom out just a hair, taking a little bit of the embossing magic and rubbing that all over the surface. And you'll see there's like dust all over your card, and that's okay. That's what it's supposed to look like. So for stamps, I'm going to start with the biggest flower and put that on my block. And I'm going to use some Versamark ink. For this ink pad, it's nice and big. I can just ink it up this way. And I really want to make sure I get it very inked up. And this one, it's going to be very hard for you guys to see this, but you'll be able to see it well when you're doing your own card. So I'm going to stamp that right down here in the corner. And I am not sure if that's even visible, but there is a slight watermark that you are able to see when you're making your card. So that's one stamp. The next stamp I'm going to use is this tiny flower. So again, I'm going to ink that up real well. And I'm going to stamp that right about here. Now, I know this doesn't look like anything yet, but it will. Okay, my next stamp I'm going to use is this little floral. It's the 3 sprigs of leaves. And I'm going to, and because you can see the watermark when you're working, you'll be able to see where you're positioning your images. So I'm going to put one there. And I know right now a lot of you are looking at it and going, it's not really looking like much, Gina, but I promise it will. It will. I'm going to add one down here by the big flower. And I'm going to add one on this side of the flower. And these don't all have to attach to the flowers or anything. It's just fine if they don't. Now I'm going to add this little fern leaf. And this one is going to go up top here. kind of making a cascading bouquet. And we'll do one over here. This is a very sticky ink, so you're going to feel it stick when you're working with it. When you pull the paper up, it's supposed to stick a little bit. And this one, I'm using this fatter leaf image. I'm going to add one of these down here. And one down here by the bigger flower. And then my last image I'm going to use is this. This is a very branchy, leafy floral. And this one is going to come off of this bottom flower, like that. All right. So now that I have all of that stamped, and you can see I didn't rush too much, I'm going to grab a folded piece of cardstock, and I'm going to apply my clear embossing powder. I'm just going to pour that right over all of those images. And I don't know if you can see that any better, but you should be able to see a little bit. It all looks kind of raised. Just going to blow off the excess. Now, if you have a small paintbrush in your stamp room, or even a Q-tip, something like that, if you see any embossing powder where you don't want it, you can brush it off lightly with a brush. I don't see any on mine, but if you do, you want to brush that off before you heat it, because once you heat it, it's there forever unless you scrape it off with a little razor blade. All right, so now I'm going to heat this up using my heat tool. And everywhere where there's embossing powder is going to turn shiny and clear. And these are nice, bold images for this technique. All right, so let's see if you can see that a little bit. You should be able to see those images there. Okay. So now let me get these stamps out of the way. I'm going to flip over this piece of cardstock. Okay, so now that should be pretty dry. I have a couple of sponge daubers here. Now I'm going to start with this Wild Wisteria ink. And I'm going to just check to make sure these sponge daubers don't have any ink on them. They seem okay. So I'm going to just rub this sponge dauber over this ink cube to get some color on it. And then starting down in this corner, I'm going to kind of work, actually I'm going to start over here. I'm going to kind of work my way in a circular motion. And you can start to see the images coming up. It's so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to wipe that off now. And then I'm going to grab some of this Blue Lagoon. You can use separate sponge daubers if you're worried about cross-contamination, but once you really rub that off, it really isn't much of a problem. Okay, so now I'm going to work that in from that Wild Wisteria over to that last leaf, just lightly. And I'm going to work it up just a little bit in this area too. Now if you want to go back and add more Wild Wisteria, you certainly can. I think I'll do that. Probably some of you are having a heart attack that I'm not using a separate dauber, and I understand. All right, so that adds a little bit more of that back in. Now I have another dauber that had a little green on it, so I'm just going to use that with the grass green. And again, I'm going to start over the blue a little bit, working my way out. Like that. Let's get a little bit heavier handed over here by the edge. Okay, all right. So that looks pretty good to me. Now my next step is going to be to grab a greeting. And for this one, I like to pick an area that's kind of indented a little bit, and then I look at my stamps and I find one that fits. So thank you would work there. Get well soon. Maybe I'll do a happy birthday up here. Okay, so I'll grab this. Birthday cards I can always use. So I'm going to put that on the block. Oh, I picked the With Sympathy. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Happy birthday. Okay. Now I'm going to ink this up with the black ink cube. Make sure it's nice and inky. And then I'm going to find the spot where I want that, and I'm going to add the greeting right there. So there is the greeting. Then this whole panel is going to go onto my black card panel. I always use a little bit of extra tape when I emboss because sometimes it warps the cardstock. Even if you let the gun heat up a little bit, sometimes you still get a little warping. All right, and there we go. And then this whole panel is going to go onto my white card base. This time of the year, I like to make cards, boxes of cards for people like my mom. She just loves to get a box of cards at Christmas. And it's always nice to have some quick and easy ideas. And this is a very quick card. If you lay all those stamps out on your Misty stamping tool, you can do that whole bouquet in one or two steps. Okay, so that is my finished card project. Now I want to show you a couple other cards that I made using the same technique. Now this one I was very heavy-handed with the ink. I want to show you one where I was more light-handed with the ink, and you can see that is just a little bit of a different look. And I put the Get Well, made a Get Well card for this one, and that Get Well is down a little bit lower because I had a little indentation there. So there are two different designs for this Step It Up card project. Now let me show you one where I didn't step it up. Instead, I used a lot of bright, fun colors of ink. Oh, and one thing you might have noticed that I didn't do, and I usually do it, you can take a paper towel and just wipe off, kind of rub it over the surface, and you'll notice that the white images are getting whiter. You just want to remove that ink that's laying on top of the embossed images because it's resisting the ink, so it's just sitting up on top. Okay, so those are my my Step It Up cards. Now I made a card using the same exact layout, but all I did was stamp those same flowers and the same kind of layout in color. And I used Blue Lagoon, Wild Wisteria, lipstick, and then the grass green for all the greenery. So those are two separate ideas that you can use with the Sentimental Bouquet stamp set, or if you have it, the Sentimental Bouquet kit. So I'd love to know in the comments below which style you like the best, or maybe you like them both like I do. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video. Stay tuned to Stamp TV for more videos, and thank you so much for watching.